My name is Amin Yazdani. I'm organizing this event, the Google Cloud Meetup in Vancouver, and I'm part of AY Technologies. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about ourselves, but today we're talking about Google Cloud for startups. So the goal is to figure out what are the reasons that you should use Google Cloud if you're building a new startup, if you're thinking of using a cloud infrastructure for your startup, if you're thinking about moving to a new cloud infrastructure, what will be the reasons there? So this presentation, we basically start with focusing a little bit about what are the most common issues that startups, especially tech startups, face when it comes to the cloud. Anything about their issues that they have with faster development, and any issues that they have with the scalability, and how they usually deal with those issues. We then go to the tools and technologies that are available for startups dealing with those issues, and with a focus on Google Cloud Services. And then at the end, we try to tie the two together. So how can you use those tools and technologies that are offered by GCP to solve the most common issues that a startup face? So a little bit more about us. I'm a director of technology at AY Technologies. We help startups build scalable mobile and web solutions. So we help them to get off the ground on the right foundation so they can scale up their systems accordingly. They don't have to, they build on a foundation that they can scale to the level of success that they want to achieve, so they don't have to rewrite their code again and again when they hit certain levels of scalability. So that's the goal that we have. And as I told you guys, we are a Google Cloud Platform partner. So I know a little bit about startups. I know a little bit more about Google Cloud. That's why I'm standing in front of you talking about how you can tie those two things together. So startups and tech companies, usually there are 4 factors that they pay attention to when it comes to choosing the right solution for the cloud. These 4 factors usually contribute to their success. That's the goal of the startups, to be successful. So one of the things that they want is that they want faster development. Faster is better because you can get to the market as fast as possible. You can sell your product, you can make money. Faster is better because the less amount of time you spend on development, that means the less money you spend, and you don't have that much money, you want to get that done as fast as possible. They always care about cheaper solutions because as a startup, even if you're backed by a VC and that has deep pocket, every dollar counts. Every dollar that you put into development means that you're moving that from sales or marketing or something else to the development. So if you can get a cheaper solution, it's better. Scalability, although a lot of startups, and we have seen that very often happens, they don't pay enough attention to scalability when they start. They want to just get something out as fast as possible. This is a very important issue for startups, that they build on a scalability platform that can help them grow in directions that they want to grow. And it's not just the fact that you can add more machines to it and throw more resources at the problem. It's how can you scale your team, scale your operations around cloud as well. And the fourth one, which is becoming more and more interesting, is being cloud agnostic. We've seen the internet break a couple times in the last couple years when some of the services were down and everything stopped working. Now startups are paying more attention to being cloud agnostic because they want to be not tied to a specific platform, so they can move between them and they can use them at the same time, and they can have a hybrid solution in the middle. So we talk about cloud agnostic and how GCP can help with that. But now we're going to do a change of gear. We're going to move a little bit toward what are GCP services. I know that a lot of you guys know about GCP, so I'm going to move fast on those slides, but then see how we can tie all of that together. So Google Cloud Platform, you all are familiar with it, but there are a couple of things that I think it's important. First of all, they started in 2008 by introduction of App Engine, which in fact was the first platform as a service solution on the cloud. GCP is built on the Google's core infrastructure, which basically means that If you run your app on GCP, you're running your app on what Google itself is running. So you're on the Google core infrastructure. You have access to the data analytics and machine learning solutions that they have, which are very important. One thing that I want to mention here, and I have a couple of slides later, I will talk a little bit more about that, is that the fact that Google is committed to open source and what that means when you come to connect that to the 4 issues that I mentioned earlier. It's priced well. It's on average 60% less than any other competitive solution. And from everything that I have seen with Google, the most important, sorry, go ahead. The last point was about the fact that it's priced well. So it's about, on average, 60% cheaper than other solutions. Yeah. And I think the most important thing, at least personally for me, was the support that you can get with Google. If you have dealt with the support on any other cloud platform, you know what a pain that can be. And with Google, they provide a different level of support for you. I've been on a call with the product managers of App Engine Flexible before it was released, just to figure out some couple of issues that we had with our deployments with App Engine Flexible. Through the resources that you have, you can easily get access to engineers in Google that can help you with your solution and figure out a way for you to move forward. So this is the support, I think, is the most important factor for me personally that puts Google way ahead of the competition. But let's have a look at GCP services. So GCP divides their services into 9 groups. I have 6 groups here, but actually it's like 7 because IoT and machine learning is 2. But we have compute services, storage and databases, and networking. So the first 3 are things that you get with any cloud platform. You have to have those 3 to have a cloud platform. Without that, you don't have a cloud platform. Big data, IoT, and machine learning, these are the differentiators of GCP. These are the things that you have that none of the other cloud platforms have to the same extent that GCP has. And then management tools, like the stack driver, monitoring, logging, all those things are tools that will make it so much easier for you to be able to develop and deploy on GCP. So I'm gonna just go fast on these ones because I know every one of you are familiar with these slides. GCP Compute has App Engine and App Engine Flex, which is platform as a service. No operation necessary at all. You just code and deploy. Compute Engine is an infrastructure as a service. Basically, now you have access to everything. You have the access at the virtual machine level, so you can maintain and tune everything to your liking. You have Container Engine, which is basically Kubernetes, a managed Kubernetes. So you can call that container as a service. And then Cloud Function, which is serverless. It's in beta. If you haven't tried it, I highly recommend go and give it a try. It's very good. Right now, it only supports JavaScript, but they're expanding that, and they're expanding the versions of Node that it supports. It's a very good solution if you're looking at serverless. Storage and database, you have the object storage, which is cloud storage. It has, I think, 5 or 6 different levels of speed or availability that you can set easily to reduce your costs. You have Cloud SQL, now supports MySQL and Postgres, so you're not just tied to MySQL anymore. Cloud Bigtable and Data Store, which are the NoSQL offerings, and Cloud Spanner, which is the distributed SQL. We had that session on Cloud Spanner last time at this meetup. That is something that if you're thinking of scalability in the long term, you would need that for sure. GCP networking, virtual private cloud, load balancing, CDN, DNS, all there for you to use, and big data. So this is where all the power of Google comes to play, especially around data. If you look at all the services that Google has, there's a very big focus on data, and there's a reason for that, because a lot of applications are going toward having more and more data. So you have BigQuery, you have data flow, data pros, data lab pops up, and data prep. I'm gonna just go fast on this, but if you had questions, we can come back and talk about them. And then the IoT and machine learning tool. If you're doing any Internet of Things project, you should look at the IoT core. It's one of those platforms that if you start using it from the start of your project, you're going to save a lot of time. The ML engine, which is basically TensorFlow managed, and you have Google APIs. This is the part about Google that makes it different. All those very complicated algorithms that you can implement yourself, they have it out of the box for you. So instead of writing all of that, managing all of that, you can just make API calls and have access to the NLP, speech translation, vision, and video intelligence API. And all of that are out of the box for you. So when we're thinking about faster development, getting your product out as fast as possible, these are things that come to the game very well. And the cloud management tool, there's a stack driver. It can handle a lot of different scenarios, alerting. You have monitoring and logging, cloud debugger. If you want to really debug your code on the cloud, there are tools there that it's like, I haven't seen anything like that anywhere else on any other platform. You can put breakpoint in your code that is deployed in production and get that code in your IDE. Ask me about that later if you want to know more about that. And there's Cloud Deployment Manager. But the question, I don't want to go too long, the question that we wanted to answer from the start was that, how can GCP help me? So we talked about the 4 main factors: faster development, cheaper solutions, higher scalability, being cloud agnostic. How can GCP help me achieve these goals and get to those points? So faster development. On compute, you have App Engine and App Engine Flex. What it means is that you code, you deploy, they manage. That you don't do anything other than coding, and you can have an app up and running in the cloud very, very fast. So if you're talking about fast development, that's what you're looking at. No ops at all, on-demand scaling, and they take care of everything for you over there. On the storage and database side, you have Cloud Storage, Cloud SQL, and Cloud Data Store, which means that you can easily integrate that. They have internal integration with App Engine. You can easily integrate that to Compute Engine or App Engine Flex or any other platform as well. You have Cloud DNS and CDN, but then the most interesting part here after the compute is the cloud APIs that you have there for machine learning. You can use those cloud APIs for machine learning and get your app, add the intelligence into your app with one API call. Where else can you get that? You can get that like an OCR with one API call. You can get video intelligence with one API call, NLP, speech. So if you're talking about fast development, these are things that you need to think about incorporating into your solution. Cheaper solutions. On average, as I said, GCP is 60% cheaper than the competition. So if you want to save money when you're starting your business, GCP is the solution for you. You can get sustained use discounts automatically up to 30%, which means that you don't have to commit to use an instance, but by the fact that you're using that instance for a month, you get up to 30% discount on that. They bill you per minute, which means that if you bring up an instance for testing for 5 minutes and bring it down, you don't have to pay 1 full hour of instance time. And if you do a lot of testing, if you do a lot of on-demand start and stop of instances, that becomes a very high cost. And then they've just recently added the committed use discount, which means that you will commit to use an instance, but you're not locked in to the instance type, or you don't have to pay upfront fees. You still can get up to 57% discount on that. So if you're thinking about cheap solutions, GCP is there. So 2 down out of 4. Let's go to high scalability. This is one of the ones that it's very close to my heart. I'm a software architect, so it's important for me to be able to go from a platform as a service to an infrastructure as a service as easy as possible. Because sometimes you can start with a solution out of the box, but then you have to fine tune it to get the best out of it. With GCP, you have a very direct and easy flow to get from App Engine Flexible to Compute Engine to Container Engine. And as you grow, as your operation scales, it's not just about scaling the number of instances here. It's about scaling the type of your operations, going from oh, I want to do no ops. Now I've hired my first ops. I want to fine tune something. And then now I have a team. I want to have clusters. I want to run everything multi-region on global level. Because everything on App Engine Flexible, Compute Engine, and Container Engine are Docker-based, but actually App Engine Flexible behind the scene is running on Compute Engine, the path for you to scale your architecture, it's so straightforward. Instead of spending multiple months of couple of developers figuring out how to move everything and then have a 6 months or a year migration period, you can do that one developer in a couple of weeks. As easy as that, sometimes even less than that. Storage and databases and big data question. So when you scale data, what happens then? That's where the power of Google comes into play. As I was saying, the focus of Google on big data and BigQuery. So you can easily start with Cloud SQL and Cloud Data Store, and then move to Bigtable, BigQuery, run analytics on top of that. And you can use the tools that they have, Dataflow, Data Lab, Datapros, and BigQuery to scale your data now. So that is the next level. On networking, you don't have any issue with higher scalability because you're on Google's infrastructure. They have the biggest private network in the world. So you're all set there. And on machine learning, as I said, you can easily start with the APIs, but what happens when you get more sophisticated and you have more sophisticated solutions that you want to develop and more algorithms that you want to put together, maybe use natural language processing with video processing with the Vision API. There is ML engine there. You can easily develop and train your sophisticated machine learning algorithms there and scale that as well. So you have a scalability not on the power of the cloud, but on the architecture as well. And then the last question, being cloud agnostic. I said at the start that the fact that Google is committed to open source is very important, and this is where it comes to play. Google has open sourced Kubernetes, TensorFlow, Cloud Spanner, and all of that. What it means is that you can move away from Google platform if you want to. Although I don't know why you would want that, but you can move away. You can deploy Kubernetes on any other cloud infrastructure you want. You can deploy TensorFlow on any other cloud infrastructure that you want. You can run Cloud Spanner if you have Atomic Clock, but you can. So, but in theory, you can all do all of that, which is very powerful, which means that you're not tied to GCP if you build on GCP. The other thing is that on the compute side, the App Engine and Compute Engine, it's all Docker-based, as I said before. And what that means is that you can easily move away, deploy your Docker on any other Docker engine. So those are the two things about being cloud agnostic. But then, being a startup, there are some other perks of doing business with Google. So you can easily get $300 credit out of the box. You can get $500 if you sign up with a GCP partner such as ours. But if you're a startup in an approved VC fund or accelerator or incubator, and you can go and see the list of approved funds and accelerators on their website, and if you're up to Series A of fundraising, you can get 20,000 to 100,000 free credits with Google. This is the credit that companies such as Snapchat started on as well, using GCP. This means that you don't have to pay $100,000 worth of cloud usage to anyone. And like just add that number to being 60% cheaper than any other cloud infrastructure. And like, this is the power that GCP provides, and this shows the value that you can get out of starting your startup on GCP. So with that, I think I come to the conclusion that Google Cloud for a startup, you should seriously consider it. So I don't tell you that you should just use that, but you should seriously consider it because it's very powerful. It handles those four main concerns of startups, and you can get a lot done in a lot less time.